I didn't even make it past the driveway. I was still holding the bottle of wine in one hand, a pie I'd spent the night before baking in the other, when I saw them through the front window. My entire family gathered around the dining table, golden lights flickering off champagne flutes, laughter echoing through the walls like a cruel joke. My mother raised a toast. Chloe leaned into her boyfriend, that smug, polished kid in a designer sweater. The turkey was carved, the table was full, and the only empty chair was mine. They told me dinner was canceled, that plans had changed, that we'd do something small next weekend, just the three of us. But there they were, every cousin, every aunt, every in-law who barely remembered my birthday, gathered together like I never existed. And me? I stood outside in the cold, fingers numb, the wine bottle slipping in my grip until it shattered on the pavement. Glass sprayed across the ground like a firework, the sound sharp enough to turn a few heads inside. For a second, I locked eyes with Chloe. Her smile faltered. Then she turned away, lifting her glass as if nothing had happened. That was the moment something broke inside me. They didn't just forget me. They erased me. Because I wasn't one of them, at least not anymore. Not with grease under my nails. Not with my name stitched on a work shirt. Not with a business that didn't come with a desk or a title. I was just the HVAC sister. The one who fixes air conditioners. The one who works with her hands. The one who doesn't belong at a table lined with crystal and cloth napkins. But you know what no one at that table remembered? That I was also the one who paid Chloe's tuition. Every semester, every textbook, every overpriced apartment she barely cleaned. I was the reason she didn't have loans strangling her. I was the reason she could sip wine and pretend to belong in Alec Donnelly's world. And still she was ashamed of me. Still, she said, it's better if Mara doesn't come. I don't want them thinking we come from that kind of background. I didn't need to hear it from her. I got the message loud and clear when she ghosted my calls. When Mom's voice trembled over the phone with that fake sympathy she pulls out when she's trying to sell you betrayal like it's compassion. It's just one dinner, sweetheart. Don't make it a big deal. But it was a big deal. It was the moment I realized that I had become a silent bank account in work boots. Convenient, disposable, not quite embarrassing enough to cut off. At least, not while the tuition bills were still coming due. So I made a decision, a quiet one, a brutal one, the kind that comes not from rage, but from clarity. I was done begging for a seat at a table I paid for. If I wasn't good enough to break bread with them, then my money wasn't good enough to buy their futures. They kicked me out for being an AC tech? Fine. Then let's see how well Chloe survives when the air conditioning goes out. And so does the check for her next semester. Because this time, I wasn't coming to dinner. This time I was pulling the plug. The neon sign above my shop flickered against the evening sky. Cool Breeze HVAC Solutions, glowing faintly like it always did after sundown. I locked the glass door behind me, flipped the open sign to closed, and turned my collar up against the chill creeping through the Nashville air. It was one of those crisp November evenings where even the streetlights felt colder, like winter was trying to claw its way in early. But for once I didn't mind. My shoulders were light. My schedule for the long weekend was clear. No emergency repair calls. No rooftop units wheezing their last breath in the middle of the night. I had even pre-scheduled bonuses for my crew. A small thank you for another brutal summer survived. This year, I had promised myself Thanksgiving would be different, normal, peaceful, family. I had picked out a nice bottle of red from the local winery up in Franklin, and I was bringing my signature bourbon pecan pie. I hadn't baked in months, but Chloe loved that pie, or at least she used to. I was halfway to my truck, keys in hand, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. The name MOM lit up the screen. I smiled instinctively, every year like clockwork. She called a few days before Thanksgiving to remind me to leave room for dessert, to argue about which pie to bring, pumpkin or pecan. and to ask if I still took my coffee with cinnamon. For all our differences, we had our rituals. "Hey, Mom," I answered, slipping into the truck and pulling the door shut. "Let me guess, you want both pies again this year." But something in her tone stopped me cold. "Oh, hi, honey," she said, voice soft in a way that didn't sit right. Mom wasn't soft. She was efficient, sharp, even when she was being sweet. This wasn't her normal. This was careful. "I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving," she continued, and that sinking feeling settled into my gut like a cinder block. "What about it?" I asked, fumbling with the keys. There was a pause, a long one, enough for the silence to say what her words hadn't yet. "We just think. Maybe this year you should sit it out," she said finally, like she was offering me the rain check on brunch instead of a seat at our family's biggest meal of the year. I blinked. What? My hand froze on the ignition. "You're joking, right?" "It's not personal," she rushed, but I could already hear the script. "It's just, well, Chloe's boyfriend Alec is bringing his parents. They're very proper people, and we thought maybe this year should be a little more curated." Curated. I snapped. What am I? An exhibit that doesn't match the theme. "Mara, please don't take this the wrong way." "Oh, tell me the right way to take being disinvited from Thanksgiving." Her breath crackled through the phone. "We just want to make a good impression. There's a difference between making a good impression and pretending someone doesn't exist." She went quiet. "I'm your daughter," I said, voice low, teeth clenched. "I bust my ass to build a business from nothing. I pay my taxes. I own my home. And I'm the only one, who's been paying for Chloe's law degree. But I'm not good enough to sit at the damn table." "It's not like that," she said weakly. "Then tell me how it is." More silence. Then a hollow offer. "Maybe we can do brunch next weekend, just the two of us." I hung up. The key still sat in the ignition. The bottle of wine rolled gently on the passenger seat. And I just sat there, staring out at the darkened street in front of my shop, listening to my own breath shake in my chest. They didn't want me. Not because I did something wrong, but because I wasn't polished. I didn't come with a pedigree or a PhD. I was working class, manual labor, blue collar, impresentable. I was family until I embarrassed them. And that was the moment the warmth I'd been carrying all week, the gratitude, the anticipation, the hope, drained out of me completely. This wasn't Thanksgiving. This was exile. The street outside blurred as the first drops of rain tapped against my windshield. I still hadn't turned the engine on. The bottle of wine, now resting against the passenger door, hadn't moved. The silence inside the truck was unbearable, thick, like grief that hadn't fully taken form yet. Then my phone buzzed again. Isla Camden, one new message. I stared at the screen for a second. Isla wasn't dramatic. She wasn't the type to text unless something actually mattered. With a hesitant swipe, I opened it. "I need to tell you something. It's about Thanksgiving." My breath caught. "I overheard Chloe talking to your mom. She said she didn't want you there because, and I quote, 'I don't want Alec's parents thinking we come from a working class background.'" My hands clenched around the steering wheel. I read the message twice, 3 times. Each time the words cut deeper, like a knife that twisted itself the longer I looked. Working class background. She didn't say my sister might embarrass me. She didn't say Mara's hard to get along with. She said, "We come from a working class background." Like I was dirt. Like I was something to be scrubbed off before guests arrived. Like the 10 years I spent building a business from the ground up, crawling through crawl spaces in 100-degree heat, fixing ancient units in the dead of winter, meant nothing. Like sweat meant shame. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, knuckles white. My heart wasn't just broken, it was insulted. Chloe, my little sister, the girl I used to walk to school every morning, The one I held when she sobbed through her first breakup. The same girl whose tuition I paid every semester without fail, books, housing, meal plan, even that ridiculous $500 a month parking spot she insisted was non-negotiable. She never once said thank you, but I never cared, because that's what family does, right? Family helps. Family gives. Family sacrifices. And now that same family had edited me out of their perfect little narrative, cropped me out like a smudge on a framed photo. Chloe was playing princess to the Donnellys, and I was a smudge. I sat back, breathing shallow. My mind spun, dragging up every memory I had buried beneath. Maybe she didn't mean it. The time Chloe had a party for her law school friends, and I found out about it on Instagram the next day. Her in a cocktail dress, surrounded by polished smiles and champagne. I wasn't invited. The time I surprised her at campus, just passing through after a service call, and she looked around nervously before walking me across campus like I was someone's lost dog. Or how, whenever I met her friends, she never said, "This is my sister." It was always, "Oh, this is family." Like my name, like who I was needed to be. Softened. I had ignored it, convinced myself she was just young, that she'd grow out of it, that I was being too sensitive. But now I knew. She hadn't grown out of it. She had grown into it. She had built a whole life around the lie that she came from something better, cleaner, whiter collar. She was polishing herself for the world she wanted to join, and I didn't fit the aesthetic. And my mother? She didn't just allow it. She helped her do it. I stared at the message one last time before locking the screen. The phone felt heavier than it should have. Or maybe it was just my chest. Outside, the rain picked up, steady now, drawing long trails across the glass. I didn't cry. I was done crying. What I felt now wasn't sorrow. It was rage. Cold. Controlled. Concentrated. Because this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was betrayal, choreographed, deliberate, and dressed in silk. And suddenly I knew what had to come next. Thanksgiving morning came with an eerie kind of quiet. No alarm. No calls. No texts asking what time I'd be arriving or if I was bringing extra pie. Just silence. Not even the kind that hums softly in the background like a warm lull, but the heavy, echoing kind, the kind that rings in your ears when you've been forgotten. I made coffee like I always did. 2 sugars, splash of oat milk, the same chipped mug from my first apartment in East Nashville. I turned on the radio out of habit, but the cheerful Thanksgiving jazz made me nauseous, so I turned it off again. By noon, I was driving nowhere in particular. The bottle of wine still sat in the passenger seat unopened. I had wrapped it in a ribbon. Why? Who was I trying to impress? I found myself on the edge of town, past the suburbs, near that little diner with a retro sign that always blinked half-lit. I'd done repair work there once, months ago, when the freezer blew in the middle of July. The owner gave me free pie and said I had magic hands. She didn't know she was talking to the girl who'd be unwanted at her own family's table for months later. The waitress didn't ask why I was alone. She just gave me an extra napkin and a kind smile when I asked for the turkey plate. I stared at the gravy until it blurred, then boxed half of it and left a too big tip. I drove around for a while after that, just watching the golden leaves gather in gutters, lights twinkle behind windows, the occasional family unloading pies and casseroles from trunks. There was laughter, hugs, casual chaos. All the things I'd grown up thinking were guaranteed. Around 6 p.m., against my better judgment, I checked social media. Big mistake. There they were. The entire Thompson clan, glowing under soft lighting in Mom's dining room. Champagne glasses raised, crystal glinting. Chloe in a fitted velvet dress. Alex standing proudly beside her with his arm around her waist. His parents, clean-cut, designer-dressed, every inch the pedigree Chloe so desperately wanted to belong to. And not a trace of me. Not a mention. Not a "we miss you." Not even a passive-aggressive hashtag. I might as well have never existed. The comments rolled in. What a beautiful family. You're glowing. Chloe, Alex's parents must be so impressed. I nearly dropped my phone, and then it buzzed. Again. It was Mom. Reminder. Chloe's tuition is due December 5th. Just a heads up. Love you. I stared at the screen like it had personally slapped me. The same woman who disinvited me from dinner, who let her younger daughter call me an embarrassment and said nothing, was now sending reminders for my financial obligations to the child she prioritized over me. That was the moment everything sharpened. I went home. I showered, scrubbing off the scent of fryer grease and cold air. I lit a candle, sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop. The university portal loaded without a hitch. I'd been in that system for so long, I knew Chloe's login info better than my own. Her balance, $21,500, due in 12 days. My finger hovered over the Edit Payment Method tab. A little pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to remove this payment account? This action cannot be undone. I didn't hesitate. Click. Gone. I closed the laptop, leaned back, and exhaled. I waited for the guilt, but it didn't come. What came instead was something quieter, colder, like the first breath of air after stepping out of a burning room. For years, I had lit myself on fire to keep Chloe warm, and tonight I finally stepped out of the flames. The next morning, my phone rang before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. I knew who it was without looking. The name flashed across the screen like a warning label. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again, and again. By the fourth time I sighed, set my mug down, and answered. Morning, I said flatly. Her voice came in sharp, like she'd already been mid-argument before I even picked up. Mara, what did you do? I took a slow sip. Good morning to you too, Mom. Don't play games with me. Her voice cracked with fury. Chloe just called, absolutely hysterical. She got an email from the school saying her tuition payment was declined. Tell me that's a mistake. Oh, it's not, I said, calm as the cup in my hand. Silence. Then, Mara, how could you be so cruel? I let out a short, humorless laugh. Cruel? That's rich, considering she's the one who got me uninvited from Thanksgiving because she was ashamed of what I do for a living. She was just trying to make a good impression. Mom snapped. You know how these things go. She's young. She doesn't think things through. She's 24, I cut in. Old enough to scheme, lie, and look me in the eye while letting you kick me out of a family holiday. A pause. The air between us tensed like a drawn bowstring. You promised you'd support her through school, Mara. I gritted my teeth. No, I promised I'd help my sister, not someone who treats me like I'm beneath her. She didn't mean it that way. She meant it exactly that way. Another sigh, longer this time. Heavier. You're overreacting. I swallowed hard, fighting the urge to scream. Funny. No one thought I was overreacting when I was working back-to-back summer jobs to pay for her dorm. When I skipped vacations, skipped Christmas bonuses, skipped my own damn heating bill to cover hers. Mara! Family makes sacrifices, she tried again, her voice now coated in syrupy manipulation. That's just what we do. No, Mom. That's what I do. What you expect me to do. What you've always expected me to do. She didn't reply. I've paid Chloe's tuition for 6 straight semesters, I continued, my voice low but deadly steady. I gave her everything. And the one time I needed her to just acknowledge me, to treat me like I mattered, she erased me. And you helped her do it. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. No, you made it small. You shrunk me to a bank transfer and a quiet corner of the room. Her voice rose, desperate now. She needs this, Mara. She's already behind on readings. If she drops out, she'll lose her internship. Her future is no longer my problem. Mara, I'm done, I said, biting each word like steel. Find someone else to clean up your messes. Click. I hung up. My pulse pounded against my ribs. I stared at the phone in my hand, waiting for guilt to bloom. Still nothing. But the silence didn't last. By noon, the calls started flooding in. Dad was first. "This is going too far," he said, deep voice trembling with restrained anger. "You're punishing your own blood." Then Aunt Lydia, "I never thought you'd be this cold." Uncle James, "It's just money, Mara. You make more than enough. Don't be spiteful." Cousins I hadn't seen in years. Friends of the family I barely remembered. Texts, voicemails, passive-aggressive Facebook posts. Some people let money change them. We all come from somewhere. No need to shame it. But where were they when I was working 14-hour shifts in 100-degree attics? Where were they when Chloe threw a party and didn't invite me? When I was spending Thanksgiving alone at a diner while they passed the stuffing and took family selfies? None of them had spoken up then. But now that Chloe's tuition was gone, now that their Golden Girls safety net had snapped, suddenly I was the villain. I didn't answer. I let every call go to voicemail, every message pile up unread. And then, just before midnight, the phone rang one last time. "Mom." Again. This time I picked up. "Let me guess," I said, voice flat. "You've gathered the whole family and decided to stage an intervention." "This isn't funny," she snapped. "No," I agreed. "It's pathetic." "How dare you? How dare I?" My voice rose, cutting sharp through her performance. "Where were you when she was lying about me to her boyfriend? When she threw me out like trash to impress strangers?" "Mara, it's not like that. It is exactly like that. And let me be crystal clear, Mom. Chloe is on her own now. I'm not paying another cent. Not ever." And this time when I hung up, I knew she finally believed me. It didn't take long. Less than 24 hours after I pulled the plug, the first wave hit. I was halfway through my morning routine, coffee, invoices, double-checking service routes, when my phone started buzzing like it was on fire. It was Chloe. I let it ring. She called again, and again. Then came the text. "Mara, I just got an email from the university. My tuition didn't go through. Please tell me this is a mistake." I didn't answer. A minute later, "Mara, if you don't fix this, I can't register for spring classes. They're threatening to pull my internship." Still, I said nothing. My thumb hovered over the reply button, tempted to type 2 simple words. Not my problem. But I didn't, because deep down, I knew there were no words left. Nothing I said would ever make her understand what she'd done, what she'd broken, because Chloe wasn't built for introspection. She was built for deflection, for image, for survival through manipulation. And sure enough, when I stayed silent, she pivoted. The next message came from a different name, Alec Donnelly, or rather, a message to Alec Donnelly, because Chloe, in all her panicked brilliance, decided to show up at his apartment, full meltdown mode. She barged through his front door like a hurricane in silk pajamas, phone in hand, mascara smudged from crying or faking it. Either way, she didn't knock. She didn't ask. She marched in like a woman on the verge of losing everything. "I can't believe this," she cried, pacing across his living room like it was a stage. Mara cut me off, just like that. No warning, no explanation. Alec, calm as ever, sat on the couch watching her unravel. "I thought your parents were paying your tuition," he said slowly. Chloe froze mid-rant. Her eyes flicked to him, lips parting like she was about to lie, like she always did. But for the first time in years, she didn't have a script ready. "Well, I mean, they help." "But Mara was covering most of it," she muttered, suddenly avoiding his gaze. Alec's brow furrowed. "Most of it? How much are we talking?" She laughed nervously. "I don't know, a few payments here and there." "Chloe," he said, sharper this time, "how much?" Her shoulders dropped, her voice barely a whisper. "All of it." The silence that followed was deafening. Alec leaned back, processing. "So, let me get this straight. Your sister has been paying for your entire education, law school, right? And you never told me. She waved her hand. It's not a big deal. Yes, he cut in. It is. Especially considering you didn't invite her to Thanksgiving. Wasn't that her bottle of wine I saw smashed on your mom's driveway? Chloe went pale. He stood up, folding his arms. So, the person paying for your future wasn't even allowed a seat at the table. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. You lied to me, he said, voice low. You let me believe you came from this polished, put-together family, and the only real one in it, the only one actually doing the work, you pushed out. She reached for him. Alec, please, I just didn't want you to think, what? That you were poor? That your sister owns a business and works with her hands? You think that's shameful? No. I mean, it's not that simple. He stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Actually, I think it's exactly that simple. He grabbed his keys, walked to the door. Her voice cracked. You're leaving. I need space, he said without looking back. And honestly, Chloe, I don't know if I even know who you are anymore. The door clicked shut behind him, and for the first time in a very long time, she had no one left to lie to. It started with a single post. Chloe didn't tag me, of course not. That would have been too honest, too direct. Instead, she crafted it like a precision weapon, carefully worded, image-heavy, and just vague enough to keep deniability. Some people love money more than they love their own family. So disappointing. Underneath was a black and white photo of her looking forlorn, eyes cast down like a magazine spread for heartbreak. And the comments? They poured in. You deserve so much better, babe. Your sister sounds toxic. People who abandon family never find peace. I scrolled in stunned silence, each word slicing deeper than the last, not because they hurt me, but because they were so easy to believe. No one asked for both sides. No one stopped to wonder how the girl wearing designer boots and sipping lattes in law school got there. No one questioned the victim costume. And then came the messages, not from her, not from Mom, from everyone else. Aunt Delilah, Uncle Mark, my old neighbor from 3 houses ago, even the guy who installed our satellite dish in 2016. All of them with some version of, how could you? None of them with, what really happened? I let it simmer for 2 days. 2 full days of watching her lie to the world with filters and fake sadness, while the truth sat in my throat, like a loaded weapon, until I snapped. I didn't text. I didn't call. I drove. I didn't knock. I didn't wait. I marched up to her apartment, still in my work boots, still smelling faintly of motor oil and winter wind, and pounded on the door like I was about to evict someone. When she opened it, Chloe didn't flinch. She smiled. That smile. Polished. Plastic. Poison. Mara! She said sweetly, like I hadn't been blocked from every family photo in the last month. To what do I owe this unexpected pleasure? I stepped inside without asking. She closed the door behind me, scoffing. Oh, come in, why don't you? I turned to face her, holding up my phone. You really thought this was smart? She blinked. I don't know what you mean. I scrolled to her latest post and shoved the screen toward her face. This narrative you're spinning, where I'm some greedy monster who left you to suffer. I'm just telling the truth, she said, arms crossed, face smug. The truth. I laughed coldly. The truth is I paid your tuition. Every damn semester. While you sipped wine and posted photos of brunch. While you told your boyfriend your parents covered it. While you smiled across the table at strangers and told Mom I wasn't presentable. She lifted her chin. You're just mad people are finally seeing you for what you are. No, I said, stepping closer, my voice low and razor sharp. You should be mad, because this little story you're telling, it's about to implode, and I won't be there to clean up the wreckage. Her smirk wavered. Please, she scoffed, trying to recover. You think people are going to turn on me? I've built relationships. I have friends. You, you fix air conditioners. I stared at her, hard, and then I smiled, not kindly, not warmly, just cold. Keep talking, Chloe. Keep lying. Keep manipulating. Because when this all crashes down, and trust me it will, I won't lift a finger. I turned to go. She called after me. You're not better than me, Mara. I paused, hand on the doorknob. No, I said, not even turning back. I'm just done pretending you are. Then I walked out, letting the door click shut behind me like the final line of a closing chapter. And I meant every word. Because Chloe's perfect little world was already cracking, and all I had to do was wait for it to fall apart. It was a Wednesday morning, clear skies over Nashville, the kind that made you think maybe things were settling again. The office was buzzing, quiet efficiency as usual. Technicians reviewing calls, the front desk juggling appointment windows, coffee brewing in the corner like a silent coworker. I was in the middle of a staff meeting, clipboard in hand, walking my crew through a new dispatch system, when the front door slammed open so hard the glass rattled in the frame. Every head in the room turned, and there she was. Chloe stood in the doorway like a storm with no wind, just heat and fury, her hair wild, eyes rimmed red, breath coming fast like she'd sprinted across the city. She looked like someone who hadn't slept, someone unraveling. "Mara!" she screamed, her voice slicing straight through the hum of the office. My hand tightened around the clipboard. I didn't move. "You ruined my life." I exhaled, set the clipboard down, and straightened. "Here we go," I murmured. She stalked into the room, oblivious to the clients in the waiting area, the technicians frozen mid-conversation, the stunned silence that followed her like a spotlight. "No," I said, voice low but cutting. "I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped paying for it." "You abandoned me!" she shrieked. "You left me with nothing. How could you do this to your own sister?" I crossed my arms, standing firm. "That's funny," I said, eyes locked on hers. "I don't remember you calling me your sister when you were lying to Alec, or when you were hiding me from your law school friends, or when you looked Mom in the eye and said I wasn't presentable." Her jaw clenched. "That's different." "Is it?" I tilted my head. "Because it looks a lot like you only remember we're family when you need something." The room held its breath. Her eyes darted around, searching for someone, anyone to step in. A familiar face, a sympathetic glance, a lifeline. But no one moved. So she changed tactics. She lifted her chin, raised her voice, made sure everyone could hear. "She abandoned her own family," she declared. "Left me with nothing. She's selfish. All she cares about is herself. She's not who you think she is." She looked around, waiting for the wave of support that always came when she played the victim. It didn't come. What came instead was Tomas, my senior technician, a man in his 50s with a calmness carved from decades of weathering storms. He stepped forward, voice steady. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "you need to leave." Chloe spun to face him. "Excuse me." "This is a place of business," he said, unfazed, "and you're disrupting it." "I'm her sister," she shouted, as if that meant anything anymore. Tomas didn't flinch. "And this is her business. Right now. You're trespassing." Her voice cracked. "You don't understand. She's leaving me with nothing. She's ruining my future." He didn't even blink. "No, ma'am. She's just finally letting you deal with the consequences of your own choices." And that was it. That was the moment it broke. Something in her eyes cracked. Panic giving way to desperation. Desperation collapsing into despair. She looked around one last time, but no one came to her rescue. Not the receptionist. Not the techs. Not even the clients who had paused mid-coffee and now watched with quiet judgment. One of my newer hires must have called security, probably didn't even ask. Within minutes, 2 uniformed guards arrived. Chloe screamed, cursed, clawed at the air like she could rewind the moment if she yelled loud enough. But it was done. They escorted her out the front door, her voice echoing down the hall like a tantrum in a cathedral. And then silence. I looked around at my team, their faces somewhere between stunned and vindicated. I nodded once. Back to work. And just like that, we moved on. Because while Chloe was out there burning bridges, I was in here building something that didn't need her approval anymore. And for the first time in years, the only voice I had to answer to was my own. It happened on a Thursday. Cold. Gray skies, the kind that pressed low on the city like a weight. I was halfway through a morning staff meeting, assigning weekend calls, sorting out who'd cover the last-minute furnace replacements, when the front door slammed open so hard the glass shook. The room fell silent. Chairs froze mid-swivel. Pens paused above notepads. Conversations died on the edge of breath. And there she was, Chloe, hair a mess, makeup smeared, eyes wide and glassy. She stood in the doorway of my business, my place, with her chest heaving like she'd run a mile uphill fueled by nothing but spite and adrenaline. "You ruined my life," she screamed. The words shattered the quiet. Clients in the waiting area turned. My lead tech, Tomas, raised an eyebrow. No one moved. I didn't flinch. I just set my clipboard down and looked at her, calm as ice. "Here we go," I said under my breath. "You abandoned me." Chloe shrieked, stepping further into the office like a bomb with no timer left. "You left me with nothing. I have no classes, no internship, no boyfriend, no apartment. You took everything from me." I folded my arms, leaning casually against the edge of my desk. "No, Chloe, I didn't take anything. I just stopped giving." Gasps rippled across the room, but she didn't seem to hear them. She was in full spiral mode now. "You're my sister!" she shouted, spinning around, desperate for an audience. "She's my sister, and she left me with nothing." She was trying to spin it, to pull at heartstrings, to find sympathy in strangers' eyes. But no one moved. Tomas stood still, arms crossed. My receptionist, Katie, glanced at me, silent permission, not fear. Two clients whispered to each other, but their eyes never left Chloe. She lifted her chin and turned her voice up a notch, the volume that always got her out of trouble. "She's selfish," she declared, voice rising like a prosecutor in a courtroom. "She acts like a martyr, but she only cares about herself. She pretends to help people, but she's cruel, cold. You all think she's kind? She's not." Silence. Dead, ringing silence. And then Tomas stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "you need to leave." Chloe spun toward him. "Excuse me." "This is a place of business," he continued, unfazed. "You're disrupting it." "I'm her sister," she shouted, like the word had magic left in it. Tomas didn't blink. "And this is her business. You're trespassing." I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. I just stood there, watching as realization began to crack through her fury like hairline fractures in a porcelain mask. She looked around again, searching for someone, anyone to take her side. No one did. Her voice cracked as she pointed at me. "She's leaving me with nothing. She's ruining my future." Tomas didn't move. "No, ma'am. She just stopped letting you take advantage of her." That was it. That was the line that broke her. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her hands balled into fists. Her eyes darted around one last time, but the room stayed quiet. No outrage. No sympathy. No support. Just quiet disapproval. One of my junior employees was already dialing security. When the two guards arrived, she didn't resist. She just screamed. Loud. Wild. Unhinged. Her voice echoed down the hall and out into the street as they pulled the glass door shut behind her. And then silence again. I turned back to my team. "Okay," I said, picking up the clipboard. "Who's got the Williams install on Saturday?" The room eased back into motion. A few quiet chuckles. Katie shook her head with a half smile. "And me?" I didn't smile. Not yet. Because this was only the beginning. It started again that night. The calls, the messages, but this time the tone had changed. They weren't yelling anymore. They were pleading. Mom called first. Her name lit up my screen like a dying bulb. I stared at it for 2 rings before answering. "We need to talk," she said, voice tight like she was trying to hold it together. I didn't say anything. Dad cleared his throat in the background. "Look, honey, maybe things got out of hand. Maybe." "Mara," Mom continued, trying to soften the edges. "Chloe's young. She makes mistakes, but she's still your sister. She needs help." I leaned back on the couch, one arm draped over the cushion, phone pressed to my ear. The room was dark, except for the soft glow from the lamp beside me. "Let me guess," I said quietly. "You think I should help her?" Mom exhaled sharply, caught off guard. We thought maybe we could figure something out." "You mean you thought I'd cave?" I said, cutting through the pretense. "Like I always have. You thought I'd pick up the pieces again, pay the bills, swallow the disrespect, smile through it." "Mara, don't be like this." I sat up, fire rising in my chest. "Like what, Mom?" "Like the daughter who showed up to every birthday, every holiday, paid for everything, and still got told she wasn't good enough? Like the sister who worked through pneumonia so Chloe wouldn't have to defer a semester? Like the woman who got kicked out of Thanksgiving for not wearing a damn blazer?" The silence on the line stretched. Dad spoke next, his voice low, controlled. "We just think maybe you're being a little harsh." I let out a slow, bitter laugh. "So now I'm back in the family? Now that you need my money again?" He hesitated. "That's not what this is about." "No." I asked, because for 10 years it's been exactly about that. Me paying, me fixing, me shutting up. Neither of them spoke. I shook my head slowly, more tired than angry now. "You didn't call to apologize. You called because Chloe's out of options. She might have to drop out," Mom said, voice cracking. "That's her future, Mara." "She should have thought about her future," I snapped, before she torched mine. A beat passed, then another. Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. "So what do you expect her to do? Just drop out? Lose everything?" I closed my eyes. Not my problem. There was silence again, this time longer, heavy. Then, finally, the truth bled through her voice. "Your father and I can't afford to help her," she admitted. "We never could. That's why we relied on you. You're the stable one." There it was. The truth, raw and shameless. Not love. Not belief in me. Just dependency. Just convenience. I almost laughed. "You expected me to carry her," I said, low and steady. And the second I stopped, everything crumbled. "You can't just leave her like this," Dad said, more forceful now. "She's your blood." I stood up, pacing the living room. Funny, she didn't remember that when she made me invisible, when she told people I wasn't family, when she made me disappear for the sake of appearances. She was scared. "She was selfish," I said coldly. "And I'm done cleaning up after selfish people." Another pause, then sharp and bitter. "So what now? You just walk away?" "Yes." "You're serious?" Mom asked. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I guess Chloe's going to have to learn how to live like the rest of us." And with that, I hit end call. No dramatic final words. No crying. No more trying to explain myself to people who were never listening. The phone didn't ring again that night, but the messages came. Texts from Dad. "This is too far." "Aunt Delilah, how could you be so heartless?" "Uncle James, it's just money, Mara. You make plenty. Don't be petty." "And Chloe?" She didn't text again, but I saw her post. A photo of her old dorm, key on a table. "Goodbye, law school. You deserved better." Comments flooded in. "So sorry, love. You'll bounce back." "Some people don't know how good they had it." They still believed her, but that wasn't my burden anymore. Let them. Because the truth? I was finally free. The days that followed were quiet, not the kind of silence that wraps itself around grief, but the kind that comes after you've slammed a door shut and locked it from the inside. The kind of quiet that lets you breathe deeper than you thought possible. No more messages. No more guilt-tripping voicemails. No passive-aggressive photos. No family group chats with my name conveniently left out. It was like I had stepped out of a storm I didn't even realize I'd been living in for years. For the first time in a long time, I could hear my own thoughts. I woke up without checking my bank account in panic. I cooked for one and didn't feel lonely. I worked without resentment crawling under my skin. I stood in the center of my business, and realized I had built something real, something lasting, something that didn't depend on approval or permission. Then, one afternoon, Isla called. I was sitting outside the office, sipping coffee, boots up on the railing, sun finally breaking through the Nashville clouds. "Hey," I answered, watching the traffic roll by. "Hey," she said, voice softer than usual. "Just checking in." I smiled faintly. Honestly, better than I expected. There was a pause, then her voice dropped lower. "Figured you'd want to know what's happening on their side." I didn't answer, but she continued anyway. "Chloe moved back home. She's taking a break from school. Says she's figuring things out. But you know Chloe. That means she's curled up on the couch watching courtroom dramas and pretending she's still in law school." I laughed under my breath. "Of course. And your parents?" I asked, already knowing. "They're struggling. Financially. Pride won't let them say it, but they're drowning. They counted on you more than they'll ever admit." I leaned back, eyes closed. The breeze felt warmer somehow. "Sounds about right." Isla sighed. "They're still blaming you, by the way. Acting like you're the reason Chloe spiraled." I nodded. "They always need a villain." "You did the right thing, Mara," she said gently. "It's okay if it doesn't feel like it right away. You chose yourself. That matters." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I just sat with that. A week later, I found myself staring at plans for expansion, a second location, new equipment, more technicians, more clients. I was making it, on my terms, with my hands, with my mind, with my sweat. And not a single dollar of it came from anyone who had once told me I was less than. That night, as I curled up on my couch with a glass of wine and my dog snoring at my feet, my phone buzzed again. One new message. "Merry Christmas. We miss you. Let's talk?" I stared at the screen for a long moment. A year ago, I would have jumped at that message. I would have told myself it was hope. I would have twisted it into a bridge, tried to rebuild something that was never stable to begin with. But not this time. This time, I just exhaled, smiled softly, and pressed delete. No anger, no tears, just peace. Because choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish. It makes you whole. And if you're still listening, here's what I want you to remember. You are not an ATM. You are not a stepping stone. You are not a backup plan or a silent cheerleader or someone else's safety net. Your worth is not measured by how much you give to people who never say thank you. Family is supposed to be love, not leverage. So if they kick you out of the room you helped build, walk away and build your own damn house.